Thank you for joining us and welcome to the Tuesday edition of Journalist Hangout. I'm Ayodele Ozubakun. As the coronavirus pandemic continues to spread in Nigeria, we must do more to keep ourselves safe by staying indoors and maintaining social distance. Today on the program, President Buhari extends lockdown order in Abuja, Lagos, and Ogun states by 14 days, urges Nigerians to endure a little more as the Inspector General of Police deploys intervention squad to stop hoodlums attacks in 2 states. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Cyril Abako. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now. Glad to have you join us again. The more a problem proves stubborn to solve, the more it requires tight measures. As the coronavirus pandemic continues to stare us in the face, we can't let our guard down. President Muhammadu Buhari extended the lockdown order in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, Lagos, and Ogun State by additional 14 days. In a national broadcast on Monday, the president urged Nigerians, especially residents of the affected states, to endure a little more. Also, the Inspector General of Police, Muhammad Adamu, has ordered the deployment of intervention squad to stop attacks by hoodlums in Lagos and Ogun states, where the police has arrested 191 suspects. Meanwhile, let's hear more about the lockdown order by President Muhammadu Buhari. It all started like a preventive measure on the 30th of March when President Muhammadu Buhari announced a lockdown of Lagos, Abuja, and Ogun State for 14 days.
Based on the advice of the Federal Ministry of Health and the NCDC, I am directing the cessation of all movements in Lagos and the FCT for an initial period of 14 days with effect from 11 p.m. on Monday, 30th March 2020. This restriction will also apply to Ogun State due to its close proximity to Lagos and the high traffic between the two states.
At the period, the number of people infected by the coronavirus stood at 131. But 14 days down the line, the figures have increased to over 300. Almost 200 new infected people were discovered.
In my address on Sunday, 29th...
Addressing the nation after the lapse of the first 14 days of lockdown, President Buhari said, after careful consideration, another 14 days is needed to stem the tide.
And having carefully considered the briefings and report from the Presidential Task Force and the various options offered, it has become necessary to extend the current restriction of movement in Lagos and Ogun states, as well as the FCT, for another 14 days, effective from 11:59 p.m. on Monday, 13th of April 2020. I am therefore once again asking you all to work with government in this fight.
He also announced addition to the existing palliative measures.
I am fully aware of the great difficulties experienced, especially by those who earn a daily wage, such as traders, day workers, artisans, and manual workers. For this group, their sustenance depends on their ability to go out. Their livelihoods depend on them mingling with others and about seeking work. But despite these realities, we must not change the restrictions. In the last 2 weeks, we announced palliative measures such as food distribution, cash transfers, and loans repayment waivers to ease the pains of our restrictive policies during this difficult time.
The president hinted of a large proportion of new infections occurring through person-to-person contact. He further warned against mass gathering at this period.
At this point, I will remind all Nigerians to continue to take responsibility for the recommended measures to prevent transmission, including maintaining physical distancing, good personal hygiene, and staying at home. In addition, I have signed the quarantine order in this regard and additional regulations to provide clarity in respect of the control measures for the COVID-19 pandemic, which will be released soon.
President Muhammadu Buhari says the coronavirus situation is not a joke and described the decision to extend the lockdown in the affected states as a difficult one. Nigeria has recorded 10 fatalities so far from the deadly coronavirus pandemic. All right, Jude, yesterday when we had the program, we projected that the president is likely to extend this because we saw the way it was going. Now we have 20 new cases of COVID-19 in Nigeria, a total of 343, 91 discharge and 10 fatalities. Now, as at the time President Muhammadu Buhari made the first 14 days declaration, the figure was at 131. As at that time, 14 days after, we had another 195 increased. Today now, we have 20 extra and we are doing 343. We're at a very, very dangerous curve. That's the community transmission period.
Yes, it's a very treacherous virus. When India announced the lockdown, they were on 600 confirmed cases. Today, after weeks of lockdown, what analysts describe as the world's biggest lockdown, India now has 10,000 plus.
From
more
600.
Yes, more than 10,000 cases. There's a temptation to think that the lockdown has not achieved anything.
But it will mitigate
but the truth is, it's the lockdown that is holding down the numbers. If we
from 600
to 10,000.
In spite of the lockdown.
Yes, it's very similar. It's very, with America, it's very similar. Initially, 54 cases. After some time, I think by early last week, it was already 100,522 cases in America. America had started with just about 54 cases, and everyone felt, look, this was not a big deal. So let's not be nudged into believing that the lockdown has not achieved anything. That has been the saving grace. And the WHO is warning that if we relax these measures and we allow people to return to their normal lives, we'll be in trouble. That is why India has decided to extend
the
lockdown to May the 3rd.
May the 3rd.
So the people now, they started the lockdown ahead of us. So the people know now, and what the Prime Minister is saying is, look, we will only consider easing some restrictions if we think that progress is being made. It's very predictable. From just a few cases from 600 to more than 10,000. There's no way President will be encouraged to relax the draconian measures that have been put in place. Yes, people will argue that we are not at war. Why are we being told to sit in our homes and all that? But it's for everyone's good. And for Lagos and Ogun, Lagos constitutes more than 70% of the number of confirmed cases in our country. So it is understandable that the president and his team have had to focus on Lagos. Because if we defeat this pandemic in Lagos, then we've defeated it in Nigeria. I've explained before to some people that you are not likely to get the kind of numbers from Lagos in northern Nigeria, because this is a virus that feeds on people traveling. Even in New York, New Yorkers are the best travelers in America. You can see how it has reflected on them. The people of northern Nigeria, for example, they like to go to Saudi Arabia, they like to go to Dubai, and, some of these countries in the Middle East. And we all know that those are not high burden countries. Down south, our people, a lot of them go to the UK. Go to the UK, for example, you see so many Nigerians. You know, so it's understandable that when they go to UK, go to America, they still come home. It's understandable why we have a high number of people from this area. So people have been asking, how come Kano? It's because that is not the preferred destination of most of the people from the north. Look at Taraba, for example, up to now, no case. No confirmed case.
Now, Cyril, now looking at what Mr. President has just done, about what Mr. President just did yesterday, a lot of people will say that, look, this decision is harsh. Some people will tell you that because of the precarious and economic situation, because of the hardship. Now, if you were Mr. President to choose between the spread of this pandemic and the continuation of the lockdown, I think Mr. President went for the best option.
Well, he went for the best option based on, I believe, information available to him, because these are critical times and you are guided by a number of factors. The cost-benefit ratio between, he himself admitted it, that
it's a painful decision.
A lot of our people, majority of Nigerians, if you look at our poverty statistics, every Nigerian has to wake up, has to earn a living for that day, and go to bed with his stomach filled. There are very few people who can stay home and they have enough to sustain them for a week, for a month, for 2 months, and so on. But the reality is that a lot of Nigerians don't even depend on their jobs, in quotes. Particularly in Lagos, where people love to do 2 jobs, 3 jobs. So effectively, people have been shorting. But I think that at the time when community spread has become the major challenge, which is usually the most risky phase of the spread of the virus, what now happens will depend on how we are able to manage this phase. Because you cannot lock people in without helping them with welfare packages, particularly in communities. And again, that word community is relative, but especially the poor of the poor and the urban poor. You cannot tell them not to work and not incentivize them to stay at home. I think that on the score of incentivizing them to stay at home, we have not done well. And I think that the lockdown is necessary, but to a large extent, we have not succeeded in justifying, we've not succeeded in making the most and the best out of it. So even when the IG says that he is going to deploy, special forces to make sure that the pockets of violence we've found in some places does not repeat itself, I think I told the line of the governor of Lagos State, what we need to do is more of persuasive work. Tell people why they need to stay home and give them food while we want them to stay home. If palliatives don't get to people, there is going to be a challenge. I personally had thought, for starters anyway, the extension of the lockdown didn't come to me as news, because a lot of us had thought this lockdown will continue. But I thought that there would have been a space to let this team, also blow over.
Would that suspend coronavirus from spreading?
No, it wouldn't. But I mean,
if we allow people to go to the market for 1 day, or to allow people to work for just 24 hours, as they are doing in Ogun State, that whatever we do 1 day on,
it's not
1 day off, 1 day on.
Even
the repercussion is going to be.
Yesterday morning, this morning, markets, we see people on the streets. The reality is that if we don't deal with the root factor, you can't tell people to stay home at gunpoint. They must eat.
No, across the world, people have been made to stay home at gunpoint.
Okay, fine.
Yes. Yes.
It's a threat to humanity.
In Rwanda, the president told them, if you are found on the streets, you'll be shot. The president of Thailand also told them, said, don't go out. If you go out, you could be shot. It's a battle for our survival. Because when you see what's going on in America, Other countries know that they don't even have the resources that America has. They don't have the health facilities that America has. Yes, yet America is going through this. There is a particular town in America where nearly every family has caught the virus. Now, if you have even 10 giant hospitals in that town, they will not be able to cope. When it comes to medicine, America is one of the best countries in the world. I spoke here last week about the first heart transplant, the experimental heart transplant, Loma Linda University in the US. So America has never been weak when it comes to health. But they can't cope. They are seeking help from everywhere. South Korea has just sent 600,000 test kits to them.
Overwhelmed.
They are overwhelmed. And it is impracticable to feed everyone. In fact, every poor. I've asked people to tell me what is it, for example, that the Indians have done. Because India is a third world nation too. People are being told to sit at home. They need to tell me how many mouths the Indians have fed.
About 1 billion people?
About 1.4 billion people. How many people are you going to feed?
Almost impossible.
It is difficult to continue to watch our people suffer. But it is impracticable
for government to feed everybody.
For government to feed all the poor people, even at the best of times for your government. So our people must come together. That's why I suggested let the people who are rich in our country
come together.
Look at the young man, Captain Jamil, MJ Abubakar. Look at what he's doing. Spending money, buying stuff, and there are other Nigerians too. Nobody prompted them. On their own, they came out to say, look, we want to be feeding people every day.
Out of what God has given to us.
We must get the rich people to assist the government in this area because no government. Remember, even the earnings of government have gone down drastically at this time. Look at Lagos, for example. Are you telling me
Lagos will be doing IGR 1 billion naira again?
Where would they? Not even a quarter of that they will not.
100 million. Where would they get 100 million in lockdown?
Who is working? Who is finding people? People at home.
Markets.
Lockdown. When you say lockdown, markets are not supposed to open. That's not how it is done in other places. Are markets open in Malawi? The answer is no. Are markets open in Botswana? The answer is no. Our people come out at night. You see people going out at night shopping massively. Whatever gain you make in the day, that gain gets wiped away at night when there's free movement of people. So we really, only God can save us.
All right. Also on security, agents are not taking things, lying low. A situation where hoodlums are taking advantage of the lockdown order to unleash mayhem on helpless citizens. Heads of security agencies in Lagos met and promised to arrest the situation. A show of force to warn miscreants against further attacks on people was on display across the city. Let's share the story with you.
It was a combined show of force in Lagos as the Army, Navy, Department of State Security, and the Air Force hit some major areas of the state. Rising from an emergency security meeting at the military cantonment in Ikeja, members of the State Security Council said the show of force is aimed at giving residents confidence that they will be protected from hoodlums and criminals.
Never get their photo.
The patrol moved from Ikeja to Magoro, Iyanopaja, Abule Egba, Agege, Okoba, Iju, Egbeda, Igondo, onward to other areas. Speaking on behalf of Lagos State Security Council, the Commissioner of Police said it was time to assure the people that security agencies will not fold their hands and watch miscreants turn the state upside down.
So we are here to protect you. We are going on patrol. You know, yesterday you all said they are coming, they are coming. Did anybody come? No. Nobody came. Because we are out the military, not the police. Everybody was out. That was why there was no attack. And we are assuring you too, there's not going to be any attack on anybody. We are going to be out throughout the whole night, throughout tomorrow. So until everything is calm.
He called on residents to give useful information that will help in tracking down criminals in the state.
There's going to be a convoy patrol in the night. So what we just did now was a show of force with all the military, so all the members of Lagos State Security Council. So minus, so the civil members, who are like maybe Commissioner for Justice, so who are civil members of the committee. So everyone will went out. Because you call it have the feelings, you call it have that concern. So that is why now, today's a public holiday, but you've seen all of us on duty. That's the passion with which you have taken this job.
Beginning tonight, there would be a joint patrol with all the security agencies in the state in action.
Thank you. Now, security is a major concern now. You are telling us to stay at home. Judy, you are preaching that everybody should stay at home to reduce the number of the spread, to mitigate and everything. But you can't stay at home with your two eyes closed now. A lot of people will call me that they'll be hearing gunshots back in the streets. They'll be hearing boys, moving around the streets, and they're not sure of the next thing that will happen. So most people, they will say, instead of staying at home, they'll decide to go and join the people, vigilantes around. It's a very, very worrisome situation.
Yes, people have formed the same central vigilance groups, and you can't blame them. I had the police spokesman in Lagos complaining that people burning tires were creating panic. How do you expect them to stay awake in the night? The tires that they are burning is a message to those guys that, look, we are up, we are not on our beds, and we are defending our areas. Now, everyone has gone to get a cutlass. On my street, some of the boys have bought cutlasses.
That's anarchy.
Yes, because, look, the truth is, the police are incapable of protecting all our communities. They do not have the manpower, they do not have the resources. Someone was even telling me that the divisional police headquarters in Ojokoro, that they don't have a patrol van.
I'm sure
I don't know if that is true or not. So if the police must effectively police our communities, especially the areas where they are attacking people, the patrols must be motorized, and it has to be constant. You must institute motorized patrols in those areas. That is how those boys will run away. For example, in my area yesterday, for the first time since this whole thing began, because they started robbing people in my area, in the pipeline area, they were breaking into people's homes, destroying shops and looting. Now, the police were blowing their siren at midnight. They were patrolling, blowing their sirens. That gave people the confidence that at least they are protected. But the people didn't leave the junctions to their homes. They stayed awake. So it's double pain for our people that they have to become, they have to form vigilance groups when they are supposed to be resting, when they are supposed to be in their homes. If it is a lockdown, people should be in their homes, not defending their communities. But they know that if they don't do that, they will be in trouble. For example, look at Akute. Akute has a divisional police headquarters. The divisional police headquarters is not enough for the sprawling communities around that area. It's just not enough. How many policemen do they have there? How many patrol vans do they have? So they are already overstretched. By the time they move into some of those communities, people are moving, building houses, the population is huge. So this is the thing. Yesterday, just in case someone says, oh, no attacks took place yesterday, because I know that our people are fond of lying. Liasu Road, Edimu, the boys came to attack them. They were shaking people's gates, trying to bring their gates down so that they will get into their homes. And shops were broken into. It's the same thing in Abeson, all of these areas. The police must know that our people are now suffering, and the greatest threat to this lockdown is insecurity.
Seriously, we are talking about European countries where they are giving them incentive, palliative, they are at home, and they know that their security is guaranteed. But you are in Nigeria, it's like a double jeopardy being a Nigerian, because while you are afraid of coronavirus, you are also inside your house, and you know government might not be able to protect lives and property, which is their primary responsibility.
The little you have, somebody wants to come and take it from you.
Yeah.
You're counting days, you're counting hours, you're counting the minutes. You know, the reality is that this is approaching a tipping point. And the earlier we deal with these factors that give rise to popular cynicism, the better. We can't be fighting. The lockdown is good, Ayo. But our capacity as a people to comply, to implement and comply with the lockdown has failed. That is the truth. So what we have succeeded in doing is that people shouldn't go to work, shouldn't go to schools. But even in the case we've seen people, now look, so when people begin to form vigilante groups, we do observe social distancing. You can't do that.
No.
If you want to resist people coming to attack your homes, you confront them. There's no social, you saw the police
You have to go close to the person to attack.
Police commissioner was addressing people. There was no social distancing there. So this is the problem. I beg to think that
Look at the large number of people that was.
Those
people should actually be in their homes.
Exactly. So clearly there's a problem, but you see, the earlier we understand it, and as I would always say, Ayo, let's read between the lines. Deal with this matter at the very root. Sir, I believe that even if we can't feed everybody, we can feed a sizable number. And I don't know whether we have been able to reach out to as many as we can reach out to.
That's why I'm calling.
That's the problem.
That's why I'm calling on those rich people.
Exactly.
They should focus on
It's
feeding,
just like Lagos
feeding
State
the very hungry Nigerians.
Lagos State government does not have the capacity to feed 20 million people.
The problem I have is this.
Now that's why they've said the first 200,000, the most vulnerable. Let's start from that. What Jide is saying now, in a lot of companies, a lot of multinationals,
They can help
a lot
us
of
reach
millionaires.
200,000 more.
More.
That's my own approach to
So
this.
before you know it, by the time people come together, they might get to 1.5 million.
Yes, and it will go on like that.
It will go on like that, build up. Babajide, now, when you look at the trend now, most communities, they don't have power supply. And when they don't have power supply, how do you know the people that, anybody that comes that's locking behind? And these people, they say they move in 20s, 30s,
Hundreds.
100. In fact, I was reading that when they came on 30 Okadas and 5 buses to Iyana Ipaja, Iyana Ipaja, Mangoro, Dokpemu.
30 Okadas, 5 buses. You mean like 100 people we agree that we are going to go and
But
rob?
they belong to the same group. What's difficult? If Boko Haram can agree, if people can agree to be Boko Haram, if some
young men,
renegade Chadians can agree to go and fight for Boko Haram, because those people you saw, the Chadian soldiers cutting their heads, they are not Nigerians. A Baburu, a Kanuri man will never wear dreadlock. That's a fact. So it is Chadians and other contract fighters, from even some of them from as far as Mali, that are coming to fight on the side of Boko Haram. So the people will agree to get involved in any form of criminality as long as there is some pecuniary benefit. That is the thing.
Okay. Okay, I think we're trying to reach the first PRO, that's Deputy Commissioner of Police, Frank Umba. But the Commissioner of Police is now telling us that, look, it's just something that is like exaggerated, that everywhere they went yesterday, there's no place that any incident took place. As of yesterday, that these videos that we've been seeing, the one we'll be showing, is just bringing panic. That a lot of those places that it was false alarm they were raising. Okay.
The people, I can't remember where Sharon did a story. I think on Sunday. It was used on TM yesterday morning. Yesterday. That couldn't have been fake. The people came out and complained and said their homes were actually attacked. So even if the other ones are propaganda videos, which they are not, we saw people who said their homes were attacked. There was a nursing mother who said when they came, the only thing she could do was to think of how to save her baby. These are very touching human and good stories. I can understand sometimes the pressure to handle public opinion. But please, while you're dealing with public opinion on one hand, deal with reality on the other hand.
White is white.
That is what we never do well.
Because the fact is that if you misread reality to the public and misread reality to yourself,
You lose the trust.
you can never get the right solution to deal with the problem.
Yes.
You cannot.
Because your approach from the beginning,
Your premise is
a
faulty.
defective one.
Okay. DSP Frank Uba is on the line. Hello, Frank.
DCP Frank Mba.
First PRO. Yes, DCP, I'm sorry. I don't intend to demote you.
I work so hard.
Deputy Commissioner of
I work
Police,
so
DCP
hard
Frank
to
Uba.
get to DCP, please.
Nice to have you on.
Thank you, sir.
All right. In Lagos and some boundary areas of Lagos and Ogun State, we're having problem of breakdown of law and order. While some people are complaining of robbery, we have boys moving in their hundreds, in their thousands, trying to, make entry into people's house and dispossess them of their possession.
Okay. The situation is already receiving the needed attention. The truth is that scenario started out as a court war, but naturally, whenever there is things like court war, it will always exacerbate to other things. People who are engaged in courtism ab initio are criminals. Yeah. And so whenever court activities are taking place, and that's the major reason why we are fighting against courtism, because it is not just an end in itself, it is a means to other ends. So when court boys are on rampage, they will do other criminal activities, they will do rape, they will do drug, they will do stealing, they will do robbing. Sometimes it might even escalate into murder. And that's how that situation was trying to go, that the trajectory wanted to take until we intervene very decisively. Ogun State Police Command as well as Lagos State Police Command have commenced joint patrols and joint operations to take care of those areas. And while that was going on, the IG decided to take even a very decisive action by moving down a very tested and trusted Deputy Inspector General of Police, DIGP Ogun, to come into Lagos. He flew into Lagos today with a police chopper, and then he is right now on ground in Lagos, and he will be coordinating that operation. It's
That's
just an intervention mission, and so they're not going to be there for a very long time. We believe that that's a situation we'll be able to settle very quickly, and then Lagos State as well as Ogun State will continue to deal with the situation.
There's this notion that you don't have what it takes in terms of manpower and even logistics to move around to patrol the boundary areas between Lagos and Ogun States. Don't have enough patrol vehicles. Your men are not.
Police Command is one of the most equipped police commands in this country. In fact, Lagos State Police Command can stand shoulder to shoulder with most police departments in the world, apart from a few. The successive governors in Lagos State have always taken the issue of security very seriously, and Lagosians themselves also take the issue of security in Lagos very seriously. If you understand the terrain of Lagos, and I know you do, you understand why we pay very special attention to Lagos. Lagos is mini Nigeria. It is a mega city. It is highly cosmopolitan and is a melting point for all Nigerians. Beyond that, it's the hub of industrial as well as commercial activities in this country. It is also one of the cities that hosts almost all the there's virtually no country that doesn't have a consular office in Lagos. It is a littoral state, so it's accessible by air, by land, and by water. It has got international boundaries, both on land and on water. It is a state that means so much to all of us. So it is a state we pay very special attention. And if you look at the population also, it deserves special attention. So, but the good thing is that it has got a lot of logistics. We have a commissioner of police who is also very competent. CP Hakim Odumosu was a former chairman of task force in Lagos, a former commander of RRS in Lagos. He understands Lagos. He knows Lagos. He knows the people. He knows the culture, and he understands exactly what he should do at every point in time. The current commander of RRS in Lagos, DCP Tunji Dusu, is also a very tested hand. A former commander of SAS in Ondo State, and he has been in Lagos. He understands Lagos. So we have absolute confidence in the kind of people we have in Lagos. They also have the necessary operational tools to work, but we will be providing additional one to them. And the same thing with Ogun State. The governor of Ogun State, just like his counterpart in Lagos, is also a very passionate person who is also very security conscious. So I want to appeal to Lagosians to just calm down. What happened is just one of those things that happen when you have a scenario like a lockdown like this.
Now, a lot of people will say, your man, Frank.
But we are here to deal with the situation.
All right, Mr. Piero, a lot of people will say, or in Lagos, they've actually had cause and Ogun State to report to us that your men are using that opportunity to exploit Nigerians by extorting money from them. They're manning roadblocks, maybe at night and in some strategic areas. What are those things you've done?
And in some cases, the people will raise an alarm and the police will not show up. So it's a big problem.
Okay. You've lumped up a lot of questions now.
Oh, there are just two questions.
Okay, let me try to see if I can deal with all the questions at the same time. The truth is, I am one of those, and if you know me very well, I try to leave my name. I try to be as sincere as I can. I am one of those that will tell you honestly that the Nigerian police force, just like any other collection of persons, is not a collection of angels. We don't have a collection of perfect men and women constituting our workforce. So occasionally, you will have one or two police officers acting outside, acting arbitrarily or acting outside the acceptable norms, or acting in a manner inconsistent with his oath of office and our standard operating procedure. But the good thing is we have a mechanism for dealing with such delinquent officers. And if you have followed the trend in Lagos, you could see that the CP Hakim Odumosu has consistently named and shamed police officers who are found to have acted outside outside their oath of office. We name and shame them. We put their names and faces on the on the videos and on the pictures and out there. We are doing that deliberately because we need police officers to understand that they are servants of the people and they are not the bosses of the people. Even in enforcing this restriction order, the IG has said it clearly. Police officers must show tact. They must be humane. They must be compassionate. And they must respect the fundamental rights of the citizens. I also want you to understand this. I know for one that when you lock down people and you restrict them, naturally, a lot of them will not be happy. When man is born to be free, and so when you restrict them from moving around, for a lot of them, tensions will boil up because restriction and lockdown are antithetical to very essence of man, the very nature of man, who always crave for freedom and liberty. Therefore, a police officer or any other member of the law enforcement community who is saddled with the task of enforcing this kind of lockdown more shows some sense of tact. He must show compassion.
Okay.
He must be firm, but he must at the same time be polite in dealing with the citizens.
I want to thank you,
and
Deputy Commissioner
that's
of
the way
Police.
we should be going.
Frank Oba, Deputy Commissioner of Police, never a dull moment with him. I enjoyed him when he was the police PRO in Lagos, first PRO in Lagos, and he was also in first act at the point in time. And this is his second calling as the first PRO. You are doing a good work. We always be in touch with you. Now, let's go back to COVID-19. It's a big thing where we are looking at
I think we need to appeal to the police that when people call them that they are in distress, in the name of God, they should go and rescue those people. You signed to defend the people against criminals like the ones that are all over Lagos now. So when people raise alarm, they tell you their communities are being raided. Please, policemen, please, go and rescue those people.
But at the same time, we have to look at the flip side of it. In a situation where a police station does not have a patrol van moving, working.
That's what we heard about Ojoko.
Do you understand? Forget what Oga Frank Mba is saying. He's the first PRO. But we know that sometimes they have to hijack. They have to hijack, what's the Danfo?
That's what happens, especially in those semi-urban communities. That's what happens. You know, you see policemen renting buses. You know, that Kolobo small bus is very common in River State. You see policemen, they've rented it to go and do their own.
Because they don't have operational vehicles. They have enough.
If not for Dangote, if I have to thank Dangote, those vehicles, those white cars that Dangote bought for the police, only God knows where we will have been.
All right, let's take this break. When we come back, we'll discuss more. It's still Journalist Hangout. We'll be right back after this breather. Please stay with us. If you're just joining us, it's a multi-award program. That's Journalist Hangout. We are reaching you from Lagos, Nigeria, TVC here. And Babajide, we're still looking at COVID-19. 1.9 million people across the world now confirmed cases of coronavirus across the globe, and over 119,600 deaths. And I was reading what happened in the avian flu that happened in 1918. I read that it claimed over 50 million lives. That it even affected Nigerians that were traveling, Nigerians from Europe that were traveling through the seaports, actually brought it in. And that time there was lockdown of churches, lockdown everywhere. Now, Jide, when you look at the trend worldwide now, what they are trying to do, US remains like the global epicenter of this virus with more than 582,000 cases and over 23,000 deaths. Just New York recorded 10,000 deaths. It's ravaging them like no other thing.
Yes, it's, when you look at the population of the U.S. And the fact that the people are cosmopolitan, they travel a lot.
Yes.
It is the economic capital of the world. So it's understandable that a lot of their people
that have gone to China.
Yeah, they go. Many Americans have actually even learned to speak the Chinese language, you know, because they've gone there to work.
A lot of manufacturing factories.
A lot of their companies have
China.
They've opened what's it called in China. So there are many Americans who work in China and all that. So, and they are constantly traveling, you know, from China to the US. So this is the reason America has been so badly affected. And then, of course, the size of the country itself, the population. But I still believe that the aggressive manner in which they are dealing with it, especially the social distancing, will help them to eventually turn the corner.
To minimize this to the barest minimum, they are projecting 200,000 deaths.
With 100,000 in New York alone. But we are seeing a decrease in some states in terms of the number of people infected. We are seeing a decrease in some states, and so those states are already making plans to bounce back, for the economy to bounce back. So nobody can say with certainty when this will end in the U.S. Everyone is just struggling. It's a disease that the world had not been used to. France will keep their lockdown in place until May 11. You know, because that's another country badly affected. When you look at the population of France, the population of Italy, the population of UK, and you see the number of people affected, then what is happening in America will not entirely surprise you. And it is also rising in Russia. It's a dangerous reality that the number of cases beginning to rise in Russia as well. So nobody knows where Russia will end up.
Seriously, with all our experts, you know, why are we finding it difficult across the world to find lasting solution to this, to get a vaccine?
It's not the first time this will happen. There was a time malaria alone had this sort of effect in Africa. You know, as simple as malaria. Today we have medication for malaria. At the very best, and humanly speaking, what we need to do is to deploy our resources as people who have capacity, do more research. The one team at Oxford has said that by September, they're 80% hopeful that by September they will get a cure. The team in Denmark, the EU effort that is taking place at the Danish National Hospital in Denmark, it was looking at a year from last month. Different, you know, there are different efforts like that. But at the moment, it is even a plus. If you ask me, it's even a plus that there is a measure of understanding of what to do. People are recovering from the virus. Some persons are recovering without even being treated. That's a fact. Okay? So as a people, what we can do is to continue to eat food and do those things that will enable us build strong antibodies in our bodies and in our systems. Because viruses deal with a body's immune system. The Minister of Health said that much yesterday. He said, all the talk about ginger, garlic, neem tree, bitter leaf, and so on, he could not independently say that they could cure. But that, just like any other viral disease, viruses attack the body and deal with the immune system, just like those hoodlums who are shaking the gates. They shake the immune system of the body. If it caves in, if it breaks, then there's a problem. And that's why what doctors call comorbidities, people who have underlying illnesses, usually fall prey more, people who are particularly advanced in age, maybe they have diabetes, high blood pressure, and so on. But so there is a measure of what we know to do, pending when research centers around the world are able to effectively provide what can be a definitive cure. Now, my only regret is that to think that we should be looking to the west or to the east for a solution. Many people don't know that there was a time when a place like the University of Ibadan alone was the worst in tropical medicine. We had...
When they said the king of Saudi Arabia used to come to...
50 years ago,
checkup.
50 years ago, UI would have been a major research center in the world in looking for a cure for COVID-19. Today we're no longer there. How can we move from being a defensive nation to taking, to taking an offensive step by also having a solid, referable research base to be able to say that we are looking for a cure. We are not just looking for a cure to come. People are criticizing Bill Gates that he's always talking about vaccines. What are we doing for our own selves? The reality is that when a cure comes out, whether it comes in the US, in China, and so on, they will first of all look for a way to deal with their own cases before they will think of us. So why wait until we remain at the receiving end? But we must find a way to launch our own effort to get a cure.
The Minister of Health just even confirmed that the European Union donated 50 million euro to Nigeria to fight COVID-19, and he's saying by 6 p.m. that some ventilators will arrive in Abuja. That I think they are already in Lagos now, and some other equipment, and and some other non-pharmaceutical intervention.
Yeah, I think the,
50 million euros.
it's a good piece of news. And as I said before, we need to build structures and infrastructure that will outlive this disease, because this disease will be defeated by Nigeria, whether it likes it or not. But are we going to have legacies that we can point to, that we had after First
the monuments that,
you know, after First we could point to some things that outlived First
Yes,
Are we going to have fantastic hospitals? Because these monies are coming in, but I'm worried about the way we are going to use this money. We should be able to build some state-of-the-art, world-class hospitals
in Nigeria,
during
Lagos,
this
Abuja,
period.
Port Harcourt.
Let's exploit the monies that will come in from the World Bank and the rest of them, you know, so that we can say, okay, during the time of COVID-19, this was what we built, and then in future it will be useful to us.
So that we reduce the number of people going abroad for...
And we should also be able to improve on our capacity to make drugs. America is begging
Korea.
America is begging India now to supply its hydroxychloroquine, because potentially it's a cure for the disease. So, and whereas India was saying that it will no longer export pharmaceutical products at this time. So let's hope that we defeat this virus quickly within the next 1 month, and then we can look back at some of the gains that came with that.
Yeah, Cyril Abako, thank you so much for your intervention, and the maestro himself, Babajide Kolade Otitoju. Yeah, and that's our offering today. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can watch Journalist Hangouts on your platforms showing on the screen. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangouts at tvcnews.tv. I'm Ayodele Ozubako, urging you to stay indoors and stay safe.